Hi, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm here with my very good friend, Rebekah Sanderlin, who is a writer and marketing strategist. And she's so much more than that. So she's just being humble. But I'm hoping that when Rebekah tells you her story, we'll get more of this out of her. Hey, Rebekah, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Great. We've already chatted, to be honest. We've already chatted. We've just caught up over the past hour and a half. So this has been great. I think that's what I love about these highlights is you get to catch up with your friends and see what great things they're doing. So I maybe there's one or two spouses out there who don't know you, Rebekah. So I wonder if for their sake you could kind of run us through your spouse professional journey.
So I started off as a journalist. Went to college for that. Started working as a journalist right after college. Bounced around a couple of different newspapers, and then in 2002, I was interviewing for a job in Fort Lauderdale, and I met this really cute guy at the hotel pool who turned out to be a soldier. And it was, I mean, it's cheesy to say, but it was love at first sight. We dated for 6 weeks before we got engaged, and then we were married a few months later. And if you put yourself back in 2002, 9/11 had just happened, and the news was filled with, you know, special forces soldiers riding horseback, into Afghanistan. And so when I found out that my husband was a special forces soldier, I was especially fascinated and eager to jump into the lifestyle. And so I jumped in, probably a little bit naive and blind, and didn't know what I was getting into, but moved immediately to Fort Bragg and went to work for a newspaper there. And then went on this wild 20-year ride of deployments and having children and figuring out ways to fit career into that.
No, very cool. And I think what a lot of people don't know about you is that, all the information you share in your highlight is just the tip of the iceberg. And even just now when you're giving your narrative, you barely gave them enough. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to tease it out of you. Um, Even with all the work that you do, your paid jobs and your journalism jobs, your writing jobs, you've also often involved yourself with causes and boards. You were most recently appointed to the USO board. And some military spouses that I talk to, they worry that getting involved might jeopardize their spouse's career, so they choose not to get involved. I guess for those spouses and for any spouses out there thinking about it, I mean, I guess I would ask you, how do you choose where you spend your time? And then when your spouse was on active duty, how did you balance that with his career?
Well, when I was working for the Fayetteville Observer at Fort Bragg, uh, just to back up a bit, I gave birth to our first child in 2004, and my husband deployed 2 weeks later. It
Mm.
very quickly became apparent to me that I would not be able to go back to work full time. We didn't have any family in the area. There were no daycares open after 5, so I told the paper like that I'm not coming back. And they said, well, how about if you work from home writing a blog about military family life? Because blogging was new then, and they were trying to kind of test it out. So I had one of the early remote jobs, and I got to write this blog. At that time, it was the very first military spouse blog.
Very
So
cool.
it was also this was also pre social media. So at that time, it was really one of the only, if not the only, places online where military spouses from around the world could kind of talk about things and meet each other. And I'm still friends today with people that I met in the comments of my blog posts back then. So that sort of put me into a position of meeting lots of military spouses and becoming aware of the issues throughout the community. And I know I share this with you. Once you become aware of a need, it's pretty hard to not look for ways to solve it.
Right.
And so then that's how I got involved with all of the different volunteer efforts I've done. It's really every single one of them has been just a case of finding out a need, and then having an idea for how to meet it. And um, and so that's what I would say when I look at, do I want to get involved with this effort or not? It has to line up to, do I feel passion for it? Like, do I feel like there's a real need there? And do I feel like I have some particular skill or ability that would allow me specifically to bring some value to solving that problem? And if if I can say yes to those things, then honestly, I'm never very good at saying no. my
You know that.
yeah, my personal motto in life is actually say yes. And I know that that's not something that a lot of people would say or do, but it works out for me because I find that if I say yes, then I get to do a lot of cool stuff. And but in terms of it hurting my husband's career, I don't know of any situation where it ever has. Um, it he would probably say it makes me overcommitted, and maybe it's hurt our marriage a little bit just in that sense. But I don't think he's ever gotten pushback on my volunteering. He's gotten pushback on some of the blog posts I've written, but not on me being involved in efforts that help the community.
And you guys just communicate about that so that then, so it's like you guys kind of find your right and left barriers just by communicating, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, and trial and error. We make a lot of mistakes, and then we don't do that again.
And I also am going to push back a little bit about you saying that a lot of people saying yes wouldn't be a lot of people's mouths. I don't think you just say yes though. Like I think you also do your yeah, like, your due diligence. Like, am I able to contribute here? Do I have the skill set to really help? And do I have the time? So I think that like yeah, having a model that says say yes to everything is great, but you also have like your like your vetting or your filter that you put all the opportunities through before you get to that yes.
Yeah, and I probably don't even think about it that much because if it's something I don't care about, it's not even going to stay on my mind. And if it's something that I don't think I am capable of doing, then I probably do say no more than I even realize because it's just not even worth entertaining.
I think that self-awareness is huge, and I think if everybody could get there, it'd be great. Like, I'm still working on that. Like, just to know, like, like, say yes to the things that you can contribute to. I think if you guys walk away with anything, I mean, she might be saying other nuggets later, but I think that is the biggest nugget that you can walk away with right now is like, if you have that kind of self-awareness about where you can really contribute, that's huge, huge. Cutest photobomb ever, by the way.
I'll
You
give
know,
myself a up.
Hilarious. So you also like you also you're talking about you had one of the first remote jobs. You still work from home, and I also work from home, and I find it can be a little bit isolating. I'm like, how do you combat that, and how do you stay motivated?
Yeah, so well, I'm a bit of an introvert. I guess I don't know what I am. I mean, introverted, extrovert, I'm not sure. But so alone time is not a negative to me. I enjoy it and require quite a bit. But I do, everybody needs human contact, and I do find myself on social media quite a bit, particularly in the little 15-minute increments in the daytime when you can't really do anything else. And I'm not even ashamed of that. I think social media is a wonderful tool, particularly in the military spouse community. I think it's allowed us to do so much networking, um, community building, things like that that the lifestyle makes difficult. So that's one thing. But the thing that I started doing years ago that I love and would recommend is I do try to meet in person with someone every week. And usually that works out to a lunch or a coffee. Could be just, when I lived in Colorado, I would go hiking with people all the time. And so that social break, and it can be for work or it can be for just fun. But that helps me, maintain sanity and just a sense of feeling rooted in a community. And I think that that's something that military spouses struggle with in particular is we feel like we don't really live where we are. But if you make an effort to make in real life friends and then be in their presence, it helps you feel more rooted.
And I think just speaking as someone who's known you for a very long time, you show up. Because I remember when I would go to Colorado for meetings, I'd send you an email. I'm like, hey, Rebecca, I'm gonna be in Colorado Springs on this date. Would love to get lunch with you. And then you brought the kids over to, the TLF that I was staying in, and we got to visit there. Or else another time I came in and I'm like, hey, I'm having lunch with Janet and some other folks. I'd love for you to join it. And you did. So, I mean, you say you're an introvert, but I feel like you show up, and I send you an invitation for, a luncheon that we're having in DC or in Alexandria, and you live in Hampton Roads area, and you came, you showed up. And so I think it's funny that you're saying you're an introvert. I guess I could kind of see that, but I also see you as a functioning introvert because I just know that we don't get to see each other very much, but every time I've reached out and said, "Hey, I'm gonna be in the area," you're like, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's set up a date. Let's go."
Yeah,
Um,
well, my other life motto, so say yes is one, the other, like my mantra, I guess, is always make the effort. So if somebody says, "Hey, I'm gonna be in the area," or even anywhere near the area, and I don't have anything else going on that day that would prevent me from making that effort, and make the effort. And I've never regretted it. It's never been something that think was a mistake. And like when you came to Colorado, you made it easy for me. You came to Colorado Springs, but I mean, there were times that I drove 2 or 3 hours to go see a friend who was going to be in another part of the state
yeah.
because, again, military spouse lifestyle, we all have these friends who end up all over the place. And if we don't make the effort, we will literally never see them again in person.
Yeah. No, and I love that. And I think that's what I admire the most about all the spouses that I admire is that they make the effort. And so another thing I've always admired about you, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation because I've always wanted to ask you this, because this is not me, but you seem to intuitively know when to take the next step and what to do. So let us in on your secret. How? How do you know? Is it, do you have a magic 8 ball? What's the secret?
Well, I'm super flattered that you perceive that you see it that way. I don't know that I see it that way, but um, I think like a couple of things. So my very first journalism job, I wrote a newspaper column in Nashville, and I was only 20 years old when I started that. And so at 20 years old, I learned to be a bit in the public eye.
Mm,
And what I learned quickly and the hard way was that if I did anything that I wasn't proud of, people were going to find out. And so I decided early on in life to just never do anything that I'm not going to be proud of. So that's sort of my guiding principle. So in terms of like knowing where to go or intuition or whatever, it's more just like, can I live with this? And if I feel great about it, then I go for it. And if I don't, I avoid it. I think another thing that's worked out really well for me in the military community is I am allergic to drama. I run from it. I mean, I really do. And I have managed to stay out of a lot of the drama that people can get sort of sucked into. And I think that might be my best talent, because there is a lot that people can get sucked into.
100%.
And, so I find myself just not engaging in some conversations. And when you don't engage, people stop talking and then you don't get pulled into it.
No, 100%. I hate drama. I hate confrontation. But as military spouses, we're always competitive. So it's almost like if you pull me in, now I have to win. This is not.
Well, and I think like I think it's so interesting you say that because I've thought about that competitiveness a lot over the years. And there's this scarcity mindset, this like zero sum game idea that if one person is succeeding, then it means someone else isn't. And I do think that mindset is real, and I understand psychologically where that comes from because when we're a community that's often only getting crumbs, it feels like we're all fighting for the crumbs. But I do when I catch myself thinking that way, I really do try to reset and reframe. And there are times that you're jealous of somebody else's success, or you feel like, why are they getting ahead and I'm not? And when I when I feel that way, if I can just sort of fake it till I make it and force myself to be happy for this person, what I find really truly without exception is down the road, um, it comes back to me. Like my chance comes because I supported someone else and they felt, I celebrated their success and they felt valued and they felt like they had people in their corner. And so then later I find out that there's people in my corner because I was in theirs.
And because they're the ones that are like recommending you, like she's a solid person who's good energy and stuff. And I think we're all guilty of that. And for me, it's always that journey's not my journey.
Yeah.
Like it's a great opportunity, and that is the perfect opportunity for her. And there's a great opportunity for me.
Mhm.
And it's also interesting that I don't know if this is your experience, but every time I've been recommended for a position, it always comes from people that I never expected.
Yeah. Yeah, you
And
don't realize who sees you.
Right. And so I think that's the other thing is people are always watching how you operate, how you work, how you move in the world. And I tell this to our son who I always tell him, Garrett, you just don't know all the opportunities you're not getting because you behaved a certain way.
Hmm.
And I don't know how to quantify that for other military spouses who might be listening because I think that moving in the world, it's really difficult to believe that good people who are kind get ahead, but they do. You're kind and you got ahead. You're on the USO board for goodness sake. And I think it's because people are always watching. So with that in mind, I mean, we got a lot more out of you than I thought I would. So I think the last thing I would ask you is what advice do you have? I know because like you guys are living a retired life now very recently, but you're living the retired life. So what advice do you have in hindsight for military spouses who are now trying to balance a career and the lifestyle?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that question because I think it's something that is easy to let go of. Military life can be so encompassing and so stressful, and if you pair that with raising young children or moving frequently, all the other demands that seem to hit at once, um, it can be easy to let go of your own dreams, your own aspirations, your own career goals. Um, and it can be very hard to hang on to them. I mean, conversely, like the military makes it difficult to maintain a career. But my advice would be to always keep a toe in your field, whatever that might mean for you. For me, it meant freelancing a lot. For me, it also meant volunteering. And I know that that's something military spouses get told to do a lot. Um, Within volunteering, though, I would say volunteer strategically.
Yes.
Like, don't just volunteer because the command needs you to do a bake sale. Like, volunteer in your field, For me, like a specific example, at one point during a deployment, I realized that my husband's command had horrible communication with the families. And so I stepped up and said, "Can I do a newsletter? And you give me the information." Really, I just wanted the information. But I said, "I'll put it together, package it, send it out." And so I was able to stay abreast of the latest newsletter platforms, and stay in my field that way and help. So, like that would be my advice: is don't let yourself get out of your field because everything changes so fast that if
Mhm.
you think, I'll get back to it, in a few years when the kids are in school or when he's out or whatever, um, you might have time, but by that point, you might be so far behind that it's hard to catch up. But if you can stay a little bit in all along, it'll be so much easier to catch up when you do get that time. And it'll be easier to message your resume in a way that feels relevant and logical and attractive to employers.
That is really great advice. Those are great parting words. Oh, I'm not going to add anything to that. I'm just going to thank our sponsors at USA for making these conversations possible. I mean, I'm so grateful because it's always fun to catch up and to also inspire spouses with your stories. So thank you, Rebecca, for spending time with us. And thank you all for joining us. And we will see you back here next week. Bye, guys.